You're going to get a quick glimpse of my new theme song written by Daniel Pinnell here in just one moment. But we're going to be talking about Captain America, and we are also going to be talking about liberalism. So stay tuned for the Bill Sang podcast.
Your love never fades. Forever we worship the one who saves. Jesus, we lift your name on high. The one who was and is, who will forever guide. All glory and all honor, to you we sing and pray. Our Lord, our God, the truth, the life, the way.
A lot of the newer ones, but you know what? I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon with a lot of people and show hate toward the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. To tell the truth, I've enjoyed a good portion of the Marvel Cinematic Universe up until the recent ones. I can't even bring myself to go to see them, but we're going to talk today a little bit about the new Captain America that is coming out. Was it Brave New World? Starring Anthony Mackie, and I saw Harrison Ford in there playing the Red Hulk, I think it is. I think it looks kind of cool. I like the previews to it, and I think it very well may be a fun movie, even though I have to say that lots of stuff that Disney is putting out these days just isn't all that fantastic. Welcome to the Bill Sang Podcast. My name is Bill Sang, and we have a number of things to talk about today. You may have seen over the weekend that there were the plane crashes. I am not going to be talking about the plane crashes today, but we have, as I mentioned, the new Captain America movie is coming out. We'll get to that here momentarily, but I also came across this strange meme. And mind you, I say that it's strange, but when I say it's strange, I don't mean it in the sense that it's not necessarily true, but that it contains perhaps some truth and then maybe some not so much truth as well. The conclusion is wrong, is what I will say. I don't necessarily disagree with the premise, but I disagree with the conclusion of this particular meme, and it's regarding psychology and liberalism. It's a theory that's actually existed for a while, that liberalism may be a form of mental illness. Now, I know that might sound harsh to some of you, but I'm going to unravel that, not necessarily debunk it, but kind of show why this particular meme exists. I will get to that here in just one moment, and I'm going to get this off the table right now so that the rest of the episode is clear for talking about substance. The Super Bowl is this weekend, of course. We're going to see the Kansas City Chiefs take on the Philadelphia Eagles. And in all truthfulness, in my opinion, there's no reason to speculate who is going to win this Super Bowl. The thing to speculate is how much the Kansas City Chiefs are going to win. What is the final score going to be? How much are the Kansas City Chiefs going to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles and take home their third consecutive Super Bowl championship? And I say this for numerous reasons, not solely because of the notion, I would almost say the myth, but not entirely, that the referees are on the Chiefs' side. We let's be honest, we've seen some favoritism throughout the season, but I will not sign on to the notion that they were on the side of the Chiefs against the Bills. There were a few calls that went in the Chiefs' favor, but there was a number of calls that went in the Bills' favor as well. And so I don't know necessarily that played into that game. I don't believe it did. I think that the Chiefs outplayed them. I believe that the Bills head coach was either fired or went to another team or something, or at least one of their coaches did. And I don't want to say rightfully so, but this is something like the fourth consecutive time that he failed to get it done against the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's had plenty of opportunity to defeat them in the playoffs. And they beat them earlier in the season. And honestly, that's what I chalk this last game up to, that the Bills were out-coached. I mean, I saw some of the play calls, and I'm just shaking my head. I know I talked about that already in a previous podcast. So you know what? Let's get that off the table, and let's talk about let's talk about Anthony Mackie. Anthony Mackie is the new Captain America. Some people have been complaining that Captain America is now black. That's not a complaint for me, because I know that within the comics that eventually the shield gets handed off. I don't even know the character's name, to tell the truth. I just know that his superhero name is Falcon, but the shield eventually gets handed off to Falcon. And the first time I saw cover art displaying a new Captain America, and it was Falcon, and he has his wings up in the air, holding the shield up in the sky, I thought, wow. That is a good transition, because in this, I know that in the comic books that there's a couple of different things that happen to Captain America, and one of them being that he gets killed. I don't know if that's the instance when the shield is passed down to Falcon or not, but I just thought that the cover art was amazing. I love the imagery of the white star on his chest, the red, white, and blue, and that Falcon is now Captain America, because I thought that it reminded me a lot of the bald eagle very much, and I thought that, wow, can't get much more patriotic looking than that. But apparently Captain America, Anthony Mackie, has made some allegedly anti-American remarks. Now, I don't want to be too soft on him, because inherently his remarks show that there are things about America that he clearly does not like. On the same token, there are things that he said that I was like, you know what? If you took out that part about the Captain America, the part of that referring to America isn't necessarily referring to America as we know it, then I think the rest of what he had to say, for the most part, is all right. Okay, I mean, I didn't hear a lot wrong with what he had to say. He said that Captain America embodies honor, integrity, and all these things that are very, very positive. And then the way he finished off was sort of ambiguous. That's why I went, because the way he finished off was kind of ambiguous, and namely talking about that he wanted to eliminate no from Hollywood, or the Hollywood culture, in terms of when a child picks up a stick and acts like he's slaying a dragon, that we eventually tell him, no, there is no dragon out there to be slayed, that he wants to do away with that. Now, the way that he was saying it is that you could take it to mean that, hey, you can call yourself whatever you want. You can make up your own reality in your mind, shape it to your own liking, and that's good enough for everybody. I don't like that. I think that we should call people to reality and guide children to know what is true and what is not. I believe in dragons. I mean, not necessarily there's dragons roaming around today, but I frankly believe in dragons, that they were part of history. I know that might sound controversial, but I think that there's numerous ways to understand it. I'm not going to get into that right now, but quite frankly, I'm not necessarily against the idea of allowing children's imaginations to be expanded. I think that's a wonderful thing. On the other hand, yes, we do have to keep reality in check. In regards to his comments about America, unfortunate that he was detaching America from the values that he was talking about. We're the land of the free and the home of the brave. That's what we are. And it reminded me a lot of how they detached Superman's slogan from Superman. I fight for truth, justice, and the American way. The truth and justice were supposed to be a part of the American way. And sooner or later, they started saying that he fights for truth and justice. In our context, that can mean a slew of different things. And the American way is what really glues it all together, the foundational principles of America. There's not a lot of national pride like there is in America throughout the world, because America is a different animal. This is what I would say, that in America, we are not born in any sort of special way, except that we are born in a land that is free, where you have freedom of speech, freedom to protect yourself, and so on, and freedom of religion, freedom to worship as you please, freedom of press. You have these freedoms that are not true in other countries. Your rights exist in every single country, regardless of what the government says. That is the funny part about Americanism, is that truly it's not the people, the human beings, including those in the government, that make America different per se. It is actually our government structure, the way that our government is designed, and that is to be representative of the people, not some lords lording over us, commanding us to do their bidding. Rather, it is consisted of people and by the people, and therefore that we are unique because of our political system, that people are able to actively influence the political system, and to cap it all off, that no matter how ridiculous the American people get with their ideology, that the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, ensures that we can exercise our God-given rights inside of this country, which is an amazing thing. That is why we are exceptional. American exceptionalism isn't about people being born in a special way, but it's about the reality that we live in a land that allows us to operate in a free manner. I mean, there is no such thing as free speech. They'll call it free speech in Europe and so forth. But then they say, well, as long as you are not saying hateful things. Okay, well, the reason why we have free speech is so that people are allowed to say what they want, particularly as it relates to the government. So when does it become hateful to say, I mean, and we saw, to give you an example, we saw it with Barack Obama when he was president. Everybody was scared to criticize Barack Obama because they thought they'd be called a racist. Well, that's how it is in every country. And that is how freedom of speech is taken away from you, because as soon as you start criticizing somebody for legitimate reasons that might be an ethnic minority or a woman or whatever it might be, then all of a sudden it becomes hate speech and not a legitimate criticism. And so with Anthony Mackie, you know what? I think we should give the guy a chance. I don't know that I'm going to see Captain America Brave New World. And the reason I say that is because I just saw a review of Mufasa. And apparently Mufasa is about being a male feminist, more or less. And I'm thinking, why on earth did you do this to a great character like Mufasa? One of my favorite characters in Disney cinema. And they made the prequel to The Lion King about Mufasa being a male feminist. So I don't have a lot of hope in regards of Hollywood. I'm promoting more so things like Angel Studios. They have fantastic entertainment on there. I'm promoting things like Pureflix, Daily Wire, and Babylon Bee. If you want entertainment, there's entertainment out there to be seen, and it's good entertainment that promotes our values. So I'm asking, I don't know, maybe not complain about Anthony Mackie's comments so much. And if you don't like what he had to say, just don't go see his movie. Like I said, I'm not too offended by what he had to say, but I'm probably not going to see his movie anyway, because, but the reason why I don't have too much wrong with what he had to say is because he got certain parts right. But again, throw America in there. I mean, you're not going to be able to do or say the things that you say in any other country, or for that matter, have the opportunity that you have here in America in any other country. Now that that is off the table, let's go into this meme that I saw that was very, very fascinating. It plays off of, I know that I mentioned, seems like Rush Limbaugh almost every single episode, but I remember in the 2009 CPAC speech they gave, which is one of the greatest political speeches of all time. Go back and listen to the Rush Limbaugh 2009 CPAC speech. He gives a brief mention to the idea that liberalism is a psychological illness. And, that sounds harsh, but a number of years later, there was actually I don't know if it was a psychological journal or just a psychologist or whatever that came out that said that he believes that liberalism is a psychological illness, or at least a political leaning for the psychologically deranged. Now, when I say that, that sounds really, really mean, but let's take a moment here. Why, regardless of your stance on these things, if you are a secular atheist that believes in evolution, why oh why is the homosexual community expanding? That should be something that is vanishing from our culture. Common sense would tell us that. And yet it still exists. Why is it more and more people who are born as a man or born as a woman want to undergo, and there are people out there wanting to promote the idea that you can transform yourself magically from a man into a woman, or a woman into a man, or a boy into a girl, or a girl into a boy? Why are people promoting this sort of nonsense? And then there's, how is it that we rationalize in our minds with scientific believing people that a baby inside of their mother, at least past the point that there's a heartbeat, is not a living, breathing human being person? How do we convince ourselves of these things outside of some sort of psychosis? Now, the meme I'm talking about, it says Mad Johnny to real at Mad Johnny to at real Matt Couch. And what it said, and I'm just going to sum it up for you. I'm not going to read to you word for word, but I believe Mad Johnny is a psychologist, and he responds to real Matt Couch by saying of his 30 years of practicing psychology that 90% of his patients with mental illness are liberals. Now, is this true or isn't it true? I don't even know who Mad Johnny is. I don't know if this meme is real. It's making its rounds, though, and the conclusion that they reach is that the reason why 90% of these mental patients are liberal is because liberalism is a mental illness. In other words, the implication is that these people are born with a mental illness that causes them to be liberal. And I know that some of you are saying, amen. I'm not. Because that denies a reality that we must deal with. It's not that liberalism is something you're born with. I mean, that's a ridiculous argument. When we're talking about the LGBT community, when we're talking about transgenderism, we're talking about many, many factors that we ultimately say that no, you're not born that way. That's something you learn over time. So to say that liberalism is a mental illness that you're born with, that you're genetically inherit, is wrong. That's incorrect. It's something you learn. But does that mean that there's not a component of it that indicates that you are not mentally well? Yes, absolutely. What we've got to understand, people, I learned this a long time ago, and I said it in this past week's sermon, and I want you to hear it right now. I'm shouting it from the rooftops as much as I can. Let me tell you a quick story. It was with my, I think it was abnormal psychology professor. Now, people, I can really get this thing all tangled up here. My abnormal psychology professor said that your brain is shaped, literally shaped physically, by everything you hear, by everything you see, by everything you feel, by everything you experience, by everything you taste. All of those factors literally shape your brain. They affect the way that your brain looks. The irony of it is that he said that, and then out of the other side of his mouth, not too much longer later, is he said that the reason why we know that homosexuality is a genetic is genetic is because the way that homosexuals' brains look is similar. Think about that. I mean, you just said that your brain is shaped in certain ways by all the things essentially that you experience. I'm just summing it up right there through your senses. And then you come out and say that, oh, well, the reason why we know that homosexuality is a genetic thing is because their brains all look similar. To me, it sounds like they're all having similar experiences in one facet or another. It's not genetic. It's a matter of learned behavior. And I'm not saying that to be mean to anybody, but that is a fact. Your brain is shaped by your experiences. Okay? So let's take that into this meme 90% of mental ill patients that this one guy is saying, and I'm just going to take his word for it, are that the psychologist is saying it are liberals, right? Okay, we'll accept that. All right. Well, if that's the case, I contest they are not mentally ill by birth, okay? What I contest is that they have similar experiences. And the problem is that they probably all went through the public school system, and many of them probably went to college. And inside of these systems, we are taught absurd things. We're taught about how to prioritize our feelings. We are taught the different things that I just talked about a minute ago. We are told that instead of there being two genders, for instance, that there is a spectrum of genders. We are taught that it's okay to be triggered by things. We're taught that you are entitled to a safe space if somebody disagrees with you and it makes you upset. It's no surprise that people end up with a mental derangement. I mean, people are fearful. In the news, when you are being told that the cops are hunting people that look like you and killing them mercilessly, my goodness, that's going to drive you insane. That would make me nervous. Okay, if they said, if I looked on the news today and I read that the police are hunting down white Christian males that are straight and married and have children and are 6 feet tall and have blue eyes, I would be a little bit scared because it's like, oh boy, they're going to hunt me down, knock on my door, and shoot me. That's what I'm going to think if I'm hearing these things. And inside of schools, they're teaching things like this to people. They're teaching them that the homosexual community is essentially being exterminated by white Christianity. They're being told that minorities are being hunted down by white Christians and being exterminated. Essentially what they're telling people is that white Christians are hunting down and killing anybody that disagrees with them on anything. And they're told on top of that, the majority of America is white Christians. Okay, I would be a little bit scared too. I'd be a little bit deranged too if I was hearing all these things and believing these things and buying into these things. And if I was a woman and I was being told that men want to control my body and that that men look at me as nothing good except for to give birth to their babies, and they're going to force me to carry it to term, which, by the way, that is a very, very silly notion. I don't know why we have started teaching against nature. That's what abortion essentially is, that it's a teaching against nature. The idea that you're being forced to carry a baby to term. We need to get familiar with the human life cycle, for crying out loud. When you are pregnant, okay, so yeah, I got that off the table in terms of Mad Johnny to at Real Matt Couch, that it's not a mental illness that you are born with. It is mental illness can be taught into you. You can be taught a deficient worldview that makes you behave in a manner that is insane. Which, by the way, I heard it spouted again this week. This is a little pet peeve of mine as well. And the definition of insanity is not, you hear me, is not doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That is not the definition of insanity, people. I don't care if Webster's dictionary says so. I don't care if Google says so. Insanity is looking at what is blatantly true and real and denying it and acting in a manner contrary to it. That is insanity, is when you deny reality and behave in a manner that is defiant to reality. That is insanity. So you see why we have all these problems in our culture. You see why people are acting in a deranged way. It's not because they are born that way. It's because they're being taught to deny reality. And on that note, I guess what I'll finish up on is my younger cousin asked me a question this past week, and it was a good question. That girls are being taught that babies are a parasite. And he said, how do you respond to something like that? And I said that what I would say, probably would roll off my tongue right away, is Are you really telling me that you're not familiar with the human life cycle? Are you really telling me you're not familiar with the natural development of a human being? Because if we look at babies as being parasites, we are done, people. We are exterminating ourselves. The only way you can arrive at a baby being a parasite is if you take on a secular evolutionary worldview. The only way. The way that I look at babies is that is how humanity survives. And it is not natural for a creature to desire its own demise. It is not natural for a creature to desire the demise of its species. And so no matter whether you see that we're created in the image of God or you're a secular humanist, I'm sorry, babies are not parasites. And to deny that they are part of the human life cycle is insanity. It is a blatant denial of reality that every creature gestates in one manner or another to develop in order to be viable. But the way that the human life cycle is designed by God is that precious little baby has to be dependent on at least its mother for a period of time, especially those first 9 to 10 months. And then after the baby's born, still very much dependent on their parents. That's how God designed it. And it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. And it teaches us about the nature of God. And women, hear me. When you are pregnant, when you have a baby, you have an opportunity to draw nearer to God than what you can possibly imagine. I can't have babies myself. And so I don't get to experience the joys and the mercies and the wonderful love that should accompany motherhood. Embrace those things. Love those things. Enjoy those things. Enjoy your babies and learn how to draw near to God through your relationship with your child that is utterly dependent on your nurturing. So don't think that liberalism is something that you're born with as a disease. It's not. It's something that we are teaching to our culture, deceiving people into believing lies and helping them to live in a manner that embraces all these lies. Let's not do that anymore. Let's get away from godless entertainment that teaches these false principles and that goes off the rails and teaches that men are no good and women are supreme good and that, men and women are supposed to love one another. We're supposed to be codependent on one another. We're supposed to be complementary to one another. And we're supposed to have a wonderful, beautiful relationship. Men aren't perfect. Women aren't perfect. They're supposed to work together in harmony. America isn't perfect, but you know what? Inside of America, we are moving forward to make our culture, our society, and the world a better place. With that, I am Bill Sang. This is the Bill Sang Podcast. Be blessed.
Worship your name, Alpha and Omega, forever the same.